spirituality that runs the gamut of heaven and hell, hero to goat, victim to martyr, right? This is kind of where we are now. And Pluto in Capricorn has very little to do with spirituality. I'm sorry, it is not as poignant and exuberant as Neptune and Sagittarius and Uranus and Sagittarius. It's just not. Pluto and Capricorn, we're talking about tearing down the corporocratic structures. And what we're seeing, and this is where I'm going with all this, what we're seeing is the breakdown. It's the breakdown. We witnessed it today. There was a breakdown in the process, a breakdown in the system. 30 years ago, this is not happening. I mean, that's when Clarence Thomas was trying to get on board and get a seat on the Supreme Court lifetime cruise liner. This wouldn't be happening, but it's happening now. So we're seeing this. We're seeing this with a breakdown in the system, the deconstruction of the corporocratic state. Now, it will do everything in its power to sustain itself and transform the environment, the economy, business, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. Because this is the nature of a corporation. A corporation is an entity without any soul. It is a corporate soul. And corporations were never meant to be long-lasting entities. The idea of the corporation was created right around the time of the New Deal. So companies could benefit from tax breaks. And they could throw their manpower and their resources into rebuilding the United States of America. It all sounded great on the surface, just like taxation sounded great on the surface way back in 1913. That none of it would ever touch the American people, that the richest would always have to pay the most. And it never happened. And corporations, not only did they not go away, but they became stronger than ever before. But now they are titans, leviathans, Goliaths unto themselves. And for them, the thing that matters the most is survival, sustainability, and at whatever cost it takes. So if it means redistributing wealth at some point in time, they'll do it as long as they get to stay on top. And as long as there's a monopoly, as long as the top 15 companies in the world control just about everything. In which case, Pluto and Capricorn will become victorious. When we see Pluto in relationship to anything, it is about transformation, and Pluto ultimately is about death. And I have no doubt that in the months to come, as the true node and the south node shift and go from Leo and Aquarius to Cancer and Capricorn, we're going to see the death throes of the corporocratic state that we're currently residing in. Now, I do not know how it's going to turn out. I know, because we could be given another model, replace one matrix with another matrix. It's quite possible. But what's lost in the translation is where you are in all of this. And yes, we live in this system. And yes, these people do impact and influence our lives. And if you don't think so, just go back and look at what happened when Barack Obama was president of the United States and they voted Obamacare in. It affected many lives. For some people, it was very positive. For other people, their premiums are skyrocketing. They're outrageous, through the roof. At one point in time, the United States government decided to get in the business of student loans. And they became the largest lender, and now debtor, of student loans. You see, that's a system. That's a system. It's a system we're living in, and it's affected our lives. And those are just two very mean examples. Because I know there are a lot of people out there that are still paying off their student loans, still dealing with their tuition, many, many years after the fact. The government deregulated deregulated the loan process, the savings and loans, and also for mortgages. And what do we have? We had the housing crisis. So we cannot necessarily separate ourselves outside of the system because these things have immediate and long-ranging effects on us, from our healthcare to our education to how and where we live. And to that extent, the government itself is a corporate entity. It will do everything in its power to stay in power and retain control. It has absolutely no interest at all in handing the power over to the people. None. It wants to keep people in a state of infantilism. And to understand or get people to understand this is an exclusive club and you're not a part of it. But don't worry, we'll make the decisions for you. And every now and then we'll throw out a soundbite or two to think that you actually care about this and we care about you. When in actuality, that's really not taking place at all. But we're going to see the deconstruction of that process. And it's coming shortly. Now, where are you in the mix? Well, you need to start thinking about these things. And you need to start to be able to reassemble your molecular structure. You got to get wise. And this process started back in 2009 when Pluto went into Capricorn. If you go back to my website, look at a little series of articles I wrote called The Melting Economy. You can see where this was going. And I was pretty much on top of that. Spent hours and hours and hours working on those posts. Venus is going to be in Scorpio. It's going to go retrograde. Oh, what a great time to go dumpster diving in the past. Venus in Scorpio, the dark, shadowy, secret past of relationships. The week ahead should be interesting at the very least. No doubt we'll be fed more headlines that look more and more like National Enquirer, TMZ, than the New York Times in its golden era, or any other so-called credible newspaper during a time when the press actually mattered. Washington, D.C. has become a reality show, led by a reality show president. And the reality show lasts 24/7. You know and understand that these people, even with their pedigrees, even with their accreditation, they're actors. They're actors and they're playing a part. And sometimes they're convinced, absolutely utterly convinced of the part that they're playing. And they don't even know they're actors. Did Christine Blasey Ford know she was acting yesterday? Did she know that perhaps she'd been triggered and sent into a time tunnel that triggered a trance? Reduced her to the credibility of a 12 to 13-year-old girl. Did she know that? Did she understand she was playing a role, playing a part? Some people say she was coached. Maybe. I think her partitioned self came to the fore and was testifying yesterday. As far as Brett Kavanaugh goes, I'm not carrying water for Brett Kavanaugh. I'm sure if we went into his background and his family and really got into his life, we'd find skeletons and broken bottles and ghosts aplenty. That we could do the same for Christine Ford Blasey. And in fact, I'm sure we could go around the Senate Judiciary table and pick one man and one woman right after the other and exhume their past. Bring people forward from their prior history. And I'm sure we'd get a very, very different picture of who they are. At the end of the day, what matters? What matters is your relationship with yourself. And how in the next months, maybe 2 years before we stare down the election of 2020, if we even get there, to be honest with you, how are you going to deal with yourself? How could you begin to take back this projected power that we hand over to these people? The only reason I'm talking about this is because, number one, it's happening and there is a system. We need to understand that and recognize that. And I gave you examples of how we live in the system, how the system impacts us. Now, you may not give a shit. You may say, oh, okay, well, this is fine. This is the way it is. I'm just going to live my life. And that's fine, too. And hats off to you. That could be the most authentic thing you can do. But when I look around and I read the tea leaves and I look at the signs, I look at the stars, I'm seeing deconstruction. I'm seeing deconstruction of a system that is in a state of entropy. And what's going to make it great again, if it can be great again, is you and your individual effort and your desire to empower yourself in your own life. That in conjunction with the Most High and the great cosmic intelligence that dwells within each and every one of us. You work with those things together, and you work to keep your body, mind, and spirit up and active. Stay healthy. I think positivity really helps. Always look on the, I wouldn't say the bright side, but always look to, add up to the next number. Always look to do that. With Jupiter and Sagittarius, we're going to have an opportunity to do that. And there's an opportunity for really, really good spiritual growth, profound spiritual growth. Don't miss out on it. We get a year of it. Good year. The breath of inspiration can blow mightily into each and every one of our lives. All right, I'm going to get on out of here. I'll be back on Sunday night with the live stream. And I haven't been on Facebook in about a week. So if you're listening and you haven't seen me on Facebook, I apologize. I've just been super, super, super busy. We got some comments here in the chat room. Let's see what we got. Quite historical overview. Wow, great job. I hear you now. Just gone a couple of minutes. Hey, Robert, you got quiet here 2 hours ago. Okay, yeah, sorry. I don't know what happened with the sound. All right, come join me on Sunday night where we get into astrology. And I'm sure we'll have a good look at the week ahead to see where this carnival is going. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to see what's possible. Once again, I'd like to thank Steve and Krys Crimi over at Logo Sophia Books. And I'm Robert Phoenix, and here's a little Philip K. Dick. Have yourself a fantastic weekend.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality. We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words, I submit that these impressions are valid and significant. And I will even say this, such an